Reading with your kids.
Hey, so great to see you. Come on in. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast, an iHeartRadio Best Kids and Family Podcast Award nominee. We're coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We're so delighted and so very grateful that you are joining us in our mission to help families grow closer through reading. One of the ways you can help us is by sharing news about the podcast with your friends. You can also subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, wherever you find your podcasts. Our guest today is Ben Lancour. He is here to celebrate Henry and the Gym Monster, improving social skills in the gym setting. Before we invite Ben into the studio, we want to let you know that Ben's book, Henry and the Gym Monster, is a Reading with Your Kids certified great read. Henry and the Gym Monster is a fun read that would be a welcome addition to any family or classroom library. Henry is like a lot of kids. He loves physical education class. He dreams about dancing, playing soccer, and doing curl-ups. Unfortunately, when Henry gets to the gym, he discovers Manny the Monster is there to urge him to act impulsively and ignore his teacher and the feelings of his classmates. And every time Henry earns a strike, Manny the Monster gets bigger and bigger. With the help of his PE teacher, Henry learns that gym class is way more fun when we listen, act respectfully, and cooperate with others. More than just a fun story, Henry and the Gym Monster is a wonderful way to start a meaningful conversation with kids about self-control and making thoughtful choices in gym class and in life. It is also a great reminder that gym class is no longer all about sports, competition, and dodgeballs. It has evolved to be a class where kids learn important social skills and lessons about following directions, problem solving, and working together with others. We really love Henry and the Gym Monster, a Reading with Your Kids certified great read. And we're really, really excited to introduce this author to you right now. Joining us right now from Appleton in Wisconsin. I'm really looking forward to this interview. Our guest tonight is the author of Henry and the Gym Monster, Improving Social Skills in the Gym Setting. Please welcome to the show, Ben Lancour. Ben, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
I'm excited to have you on. Gym PE class. I loved PE class when I was a kid.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's everyone's favorite.
Yeah, and I certainly wasn't the jock. I wasn't the big man on campus. I mean, I'm only 5'6". I wasn't the big man in nursery school. But it was, I loved it. And it's funny now, I hear a lot of people talking about how they dreaded gym class, and I just mentioned to you that I went to a Planet Fitness in Wisconsin one time, and I know in Planet Fitness they have one of their logos, it's gym class without the dodgeball to your face or something like that. And so many people have these memories of gym class that aren't fun, but I just remember it as being a really fun time, especially getting hit with those rubber balls during, we called it bombardment. I guess it was a kind of an inner city version of dodgeball. Talk to me about what Henry and the Gym Monster is all about, please.
Right. So Henry and the Gym Monster is about a little boy whose favorite class is physical education. He attends class one day and he finds out that he has this gym monster named Manny. And Manny is kind of a mischievous little guy. Starts off small, but eventually grows grows each time that Henry is blaming Manny for the choices that Henry has been making. So it's almost like Manny the Monster is like a metaphor for guilt and his conscience, and it's going to be Henry's job to try and figure out a way to get rid of Manny by making the right choices during his PE class.
So what kind of behaviors I'm assuming that you're a phys ed teacher.
I am, yes.
What kind of behaviors are you seeing gym monsters causing kids to, I don't know if commit's the right word, but what kind of behaviors are you seeing in gym class?
So some of the behaviors that I actually have Henry show in class, like yelling almost like it's an outdoor recess. Yes, we want the kids to get their energy out, but they still have to be respectful learners. And yes, there is learning that happens in the gym.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe some inappropriateness with equipment, lying, cheating. Like kids, I'm not gonna lie, they're selfish. They want to be the ones to win. They want to be the ones that, they're competitive. It's difficult for them to handle loss. And so sometimes they'll do what it takes in order to win, even if it means they have to, cheat to get there. Sometimes it can get physical too. Like I don't think sometimes kids are understanding how hurtful they can be in a physical standpoint, like pushing, shoving, and just to kind of get ahead of their peers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You're talking about kids being selfish and wanting to win and lying and cheating, doing everything they can to win. That describes a lot of adults I know too.
Yeah. So taking responsibility, not only tough for kids, but it's tough. It's a lifelong skill, and it's tough for everyone.
Yeah, yeah. And the other thing, as you were just mentioning, the physicality, that's probably one thing that I didn't realize. There were a lot of kids like me when I was a kid almost 100 years ago that enjoyed being bumped around. And even now that I'm almost 100, it doesn't bother me when I fall off I'm a little embarrassed when I fall off my bike, but it's not the end of the world, and I can roll with it and bounce right back up. But there's a lot of other people who that just isn't fun for them at all. And in gym class, it's one thing to be part of a competitive soccer or football team where everybody's on that same page, but that's not what we're talking about in gym class.
Yeah, nowadays physical education looks a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
In the past, it was very competitive. It was sports based. That dodgeball was a part of the curriculum, which I want to say the majority of the United States, I want to say is like a big no-no. It's not a best practice where we use kids or people as targets.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a big safety issue, and it's something that we're trying to get away from.
Yeah. One of the things that you mentioned was that there's a lot of learning that goes on in PE class, and it has changed. For the parents out there who aren't as connected and don't know what other ways has it changed? I know we don't play dodgeball in most schools anymore, but what kind of specific things are you trying to teach kids in phys ed?
Right. So at the really younger grades, it's movement-based activities. Like we teach 6 or 7 different locomotor skills. Kids are discovering how their bodies work, and they're trying to figure out those gross motor movements. Like, it's not easy for a kid to skip. So it's breaking down skills. We have manipulative. So it's like getting equipment in the kids' hands, like manipulating bean bags and small, like tennis balls and stuff to kind of get their fingers in their hands, to kind of work with the brain. We're working on sportsmanship. We're working on building friendship, the way we talk to our peers. We're working on skill building activities such as cooperative games, like, communicating with our peers. First day of school with some kids that haven't been in the gym or haven't been in my class all summer. They forget how to talk to their peers because they're, too busy playing video games, social media, all that jazz. And skill building activities, I keep calling it skill building. Cooperative activities get the kids to open up and talk to each other and have conversations, stuff that they might not have got face to face, over the summer. I'm more than just teaching skills in the gym. I'm teaching them how to be a friend. I'm teaching them, why it's not okay to cheat to win. Like, and I think that's what I think the book is a good representation of what physical education teachers are nowadays.
Yeah. Boy, oh boy, you are a long way away from my phys ed teacher, Mr. Loxo, who, if people talk about people using their outdoor voices, I don't think I've ever heard Mr. Loxo speaking at anything lower than volume 100. So you're describing quite a different a different world in phys ed.
Yeah, and kind of bouncing off of that, like, you come across the kids, you start yelling at them. I mean, you're trying to get the respect, but you're also instilling fear that, when you come to Mr. Lancour's class, prepare to get yelled at, and that doesn't make learning in my class enjoyable. So definitely focusing on building relationships with the kids, showing them that I genuinely care, not just about their time in my class, but what goes on outside of class as well. So Are there times where I need to use that teacher voice? You bet, because chaos still, you have 30 kindergartners in one small space that have never been taught, how to move. It's going to get a little crazy sometimes. And do I have to raise my voice? Yes, but I'm not deliberately calling on kids to yell at them. It's pull kids aside, have those one-on-one conversations, explain to them what I saw and what we can do to improve on those expected behaviors.
Mm-hmm. How can parents support what you're teaching kids in gym class at home?
I think it starts off asking about what is involved in the curriculum. I'm sure back in the day, parents, all they did was play sports and team games, and, you have a class of 30, you throw 1 or 2 basketballs, and there's so much standing around. And I think it's trying to get them to understand that we're not trying to do these games where it's just stand around and, wait for the ball to come to you. It's getting kids with repetition. It's doing skills that are involving you. It's not a spectator sport. It's getting your repetitions to help build on those skills in hopes that we're going to get you to be confident learners, so that way you want to pursue this stuff outside of school. So it's like, if I was a parent, it's like, what are you doing in class that I can reinforce at home, that either I can do in a small group or a one-to-one setting, so that way when I send little Billy back to school, he gains a little bit more confidence. So social media has been such a wonderful tool, especially during COVID, with getting parents and educators the tools on what to do at home with very little equipment. So I would say there's been more resources today than ever before.
Wow. You just mentioned something. It's true. There's probably more communication going on right now with a lot of families. I know, Zoom learning isn't perfect, and there's a lot of challenges, and it's not equitable. But I'm imagining for a lot of families, you're probably seeing the parents of your kids more now than you had pre-pandemic. Do you think that that some of this is going to carry over after we get back to normal, whatever that new normal is going to be and whenever it's going to happen? Do you think that you'll be looking for ways, and parents will be looking for ways to keep that line of communication open, not just with the homeroom teacher, but with the specialists like yourself?
So I work in the Green Bay School District, and believe it or not, I know Green Bay is a small town, but it's a very, very impoverished city. And to be honest, specials like art, music, phys ed, it's not something that parents are really concerning themselves over. And it's really, it's really our jobs as the educators to try and introduce them to activities that they can do within the gym setting, at recess, and at home, because these kids aren't doing organized activities at home. They're not joining. I want to say the majority, not all, but the majority of these kids aren't joining team sports, like summer camps and all that. And we really are right now their only outlet, just because we're not seen as a priority, especially with this big health pandemic going on, that where we should be kind of at the top of the list. We're not. We're still kind of at the bottom of the totem pole, and we just kind of have to fight through it and kind of ride course until, like you said, go back to normal. So what we've been doing, what I've been doing is I've been creating these Bitmoji virtual gyms for kids to kind of do some learning on their own, because some kids are at home by themselves while parents are at work. They don't have a lot of support at home. So it's kind of finding a good balance of finding activities not only that they'll enjoy, but ones that they'll actually follow through and do, and ones that aren't going to be too overwhelming, because you have to think they have 30 to 40 minutes of physical education, art, music, on top of hours and hours in front of the computer. So it's just finding a good balance of providing them with some resources at least, but not overwhelm them at the same time.
Yeah. Isn't it ironic that we're not learning in this time of COVID, we're not really embracing the fact that, one of the reasons so many people are surviving and getting over COVID is because they were living healthy lifestyles before they got sick. And, taking care of yourself, exercising, eating right, it's all so helpful, and it's becoming very apparent today. And boy, I hope if there's one thing that we learn from this is to really motivate everybody to get outside, start exercising more, supplement right, eat right.
Yeah, the irony is definitely there. I feel like that's kind of been the irony in this profession for a very long time.
Yeah. what inspired you? Because I know there's still that image of the gym teacher with the whistle and the shorts and the knee socks and like Mr. Loxo screaming at everybody. But what inspired you to become a children's author?
So if you don't mind, I'm going to rewind kind of my life here.
Sure.
So prior to having my first FIAD job, which is where I'm at right now, this is my third year in Green Bay. I taught 5 years of special education in Appleton, and I got to use. Are you familiar with Julia Cook by chance?
I'm not. No.
So she's like a national known counselor, and she's a very popular author with social skills books. And I often used her books for my social skills lessons with my students. I worked in a self-contained setting with these students had a mental health focus. They were oftentimes a danger to themselves, peers, family members, and it was a very stressful job. And I got through it with the help of my teammates, but the other teachers, the paraprofessionals. That they were a blessing. And what I felt like was more important than the academics is just trying to. This is going to sound bad, but try to get these kids to be normal human beings. We want to reintegrate them back into society. We want them to be with their same age peers. We don't want a sixth grader learning with a kindergartner just because that's the programming that they need. It's like something that we're really, really working towards to get these kids back in with their same age peers. So I often use these Julia Cook books. Like for example, there's a book that's called My Mouth or A Case of the Tattle Tongue, or My Mouth is a Volcano, and it all just dealt with different social skills. So those are the books that I use where we've had some really awesome conversations. Fast forward to where I'm at right now, physical education. A co-teacher of mine had a book sitting on his desk called My PE Teacher is a Ninja. First time I ever saw a children's picture book that the setting was in the gym. So he let me take a look at it. Very simplistic illustrations, but still a really cool concept to see, a FIAD teacher in the gym, especially a ninja, right? Sometimes the teachers are seen as really, really awesome and superstars of the school and whatnot. So I took the idea of the Julia Cook social skills books, or the social skills deficits, combine that with the gym setting, and put those two together, and then you have Henry and the Gym Monster. I took taking responsibility and put that in with the gym setting, and so that's how that idea came to be.
We really encourage, no matter what level of a book is, if we have an author in here talking about a YA book or a middle grade book, we always encourage families to find ways to co-read together, to even read aloud with their high school kids. I think Henry and the Gym Monster is a great book for a family to read together, even with their kids who are independent readers. And I'm just wondering what kind of conversations that they can have as they're reading or after they read the book.
So the way that I envision this is you take a child that has difficulties taking responsibility, irregardless of the setting. And if parents see that in the store, like, I've never seen a book like this before. Let's check it out. And they can utilize that as a resource for their child to like, hey, I can show my kid, that there's another boy out there just like my child that can, struggle at the school setting in a class that he or she may enjoy. And they kind of have to work through the process of overcoming their obstacles, just like in real life, and convert that into the gym setting. So it's very, very practical, I would say. Yeah. Henry and the Gym Monster is with any 4 through 8 year old, any K through 2 kiddo that is struggling to own up to their choices.
Yeah, and as you're mentioning that, it sounds like these are skills that kids can use in every aspect of their lives.
Yeah, and so it was really a hope of mine not to just reach out to those K through 2 FIAD teachers, but parents, counselors, school psychologists, anyone that has a child that, has a passion for physical education, anyone that struggles with, following through with the expected behavior, maybe showing kids that struggle with those expected behaviors that maybe don't necessarily like the gym. So I think it applies to more people than I had originally thought when I first wrote this book.
I know one of the things that you shared with us is that in a lot of school systems, the specialists, the gym, art, music, these are the areas of the curriculum that are cut first anytime that there's any kind of budget issues, and they're kind of seen as chocolate sprinkles on top of the ice cream cone. It's a nice treat, but it's not really necessary. What would you say to that school committee member that's looking to find ways to cut the budget, and the first thing they take the axe to is the music class, the gym class?
So I think the easiest thing for me is there's so much research that physical activity really engages the neurons in the brain. When the brain's working, your kids are working, when you're so worried about their standardized test. I mean, because that's what a lot of the schools care about. I mean, that means more funding for them. So, I mean, you take away the things that, help alleviate stress, get these kids active, get that brain working. I mean, you take all that away, you have some, you're going to have some zombie-like learners in your classroom. Test scores are going to go down. It's going to be counterproductive for your community. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be, yes, it's going to save you money right now, but what are you gaining in the long term? We're not teaching these kids to be lifelong. We're not going to, that just takes away everything that I am. Like, my goal is to teach these kids to be lifelong learners, in a physical sense. You've just taken away my power. What does that say about your leaders? Mm-hmm. And the biggest thing is seems to be test scores and funding. And it's like, throw that all out the window. It's gone. Don't look for scores to go up. And I know there's teachers that talk about the state report cards that are handed out at the end of the year. Well, scores are going to go down overall. Mm-hmm. And it's just not going to be good for anyone.
Yeah. As I'm speaking to you, my wife has been a teacher in the Boston Public Schools, special needs teacher in the Boston Public Schools for 33 years. And, she's just, about ready to retire. You're at the other end of that career path. You're a young teacher that you have the passion. My beautiful wife still has that passion, but you have so much passion. And you're so thoughtful. If I were to hand you, because I am a magician, I travel around the country before the pandemic doing magic shows in schools. If I were to hand you my official magic wand and say, here you go, Ben, take this magic wand and wave it and create the perfect school or this perfect learning environment, what would that look like?
I think we got to first focus on we need to get quality teachers back. Mm-hmm. Like, in Wisconsin, we had Scott Walker. I don't like to talk politics at all. I'm not as knowledgeable about it as I should be, mm-hmm. but it kind of went against what, it pushed good teachers out of the profession earlier than they wanted to because of benefits. Mm-hmm. I don't want to lose any more good teachers because of money. And although you don't get into this profession for money, you also don't get into this profession to go broke either. And, that you work 20, 30 plus years, you can't afford to lose those benefits that you've been working your entire life for, so that way you can enjoy, mm-hmm. Your retirement. So getting quality teachers in there if money is not an issue, because, like I said, we've lost so many. You'd asked about, what happens if we cut those programs. Well, I feel like we need more of those. Yeah. We have my students at Sullivan Elementary in Green Bay. They get one recess a day, maybe sprinkled in some movement breaks throughout their schedule. And it's just not enough. And I'm going to go back to the research that shows that physical activity is going to be good for the brain, going to improve test scores. So why are we going to cut those things that are going to help? It's just counterproductive. So mm-hmm. finding ways to help build in that physical activity, more recess, more specials. I know the day is only so long, but maybe we take away, teachers love summer vacation, like kind of gives some teachers some time to unwind, but do we move to a year-round concept where we can maybe shorten school days, more physical activity, and keep the learning going year-round? Not so great for I have a family with two young children. It means less time with them, but they'll still be getting the same quality education that I want to have for my own students. Yeah. So definitely increasing the specials, maybe shorten the school day, because 7:30 in the morning sometimes till 3 in the afternoon. It's a long day for little ones, especially you don't know when their last meal came. Making sure, that's another thing is, our school does a really good job of breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We have 80% that are free and reduced lunch. It's just not enough money to go around, and we need these kids fed. So we need to make sure that fed, clothed, take care of those basic necessities so that way they can be successful and learn.
Mm-hmm.
If they're more worried about where their next meal is going to come, I mean, how are you going to expect them to, live up to their potential on an educational level?
Yeah.
So.
Well, there's so many studies, and I don't remember the numbers, but we have had guests on that have spoken about, make the investment early in education with kids and spend that money at a young age, and you're going to reduce the number of kids who are in prison. And imprisoning an adult for 20 or 30 years is a lot more costly than it is to educate a kid. And
right.
So, make that investment early. Ben, where can people go to find out more about Henry and the Gym Monster and more about you?
So my ebook, which is going to be a PDF version of my story, is going to launch this Friday, March 19th through the 21st, where it's free. You go to Amazon.com, type in Henry and the Gym Monster, and it will pop up 3 or 4 books down, and you can download it'll say buy for free. All I'm looking for, I'm not looking to get, don't worry about paying, it's free. I'm just looking to get honest reviews. Well, let's try to get Henry the Gym Monster out there in the FIAD community, out there on Amazon, just so that the average Joe can come across that book and, share that book with their children, a counselor in their life, school psychologist, teacher, what have you. After the 21st, it'll be for sale for $3.99. In the meantime, if you want to stay up to date on Henry the Gym Monster and when I'll have hard copies published, www.benlancorebooks.com. You can sign up to get emails from me. I promise I won't spam you. I'll just let you know what you need to know, and we'll keep the emails to a minimum. So
awesome. We've had a great time speaking tonight to the author of Henry and the Gym Monster, Improving Social Skills in the Gym Setting. And we've been speaking with the author, Ben Lancour. Hey, Ben, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Please be sure to join us for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Jane Owen. She is a publicist to the stars out in Hollywood, and she is here to talk about her debut children's book, Tom Wolfe and Max the Owl. That's the next episode of the podcast. If you are the author of a great children's book, you want to find out about our Reading with Your Kids Certified Great Read program. You heard at the beginning of the show that Ben Lancour's Henry and the Gym Monster is our latest Reading with Your Kids Certified Great Read. This program helps authors let the world know that their book is worthy of their attention and consideration. You can learn all about it by going to our website, readingwithyourkids.com. Click on the author's Click Here button at the top of the page. Scroll on down to Certified Great Reads. Want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, want to thank our guest, Ben Lancour. Want to thank my team, Alejandro Doherty, Fatima Khan, Alexia Brown, Hannah Pat Opoyski. Want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.